Alright guys, needed a break from what I was doing, and I decided to take the swirl port heads and do a cut up. Now this is the port we wound up getting 318 CFM out of. Okay, it was blown through the bolt hole. It had a massive valve. It was a 2.1 inch valve. I brought it right to the very edge of the short side radius and then some. Actually broke right through. The exhaust ports are nothing special. They're just standard Chevy 350, 305 exhaust port. They don't need a ton of work, and they flow like very, very well. Okay, notice how thick that casting still is, right? That's a 1/6. It's ported out. It flowed really well, and you still have a lot of metal around it. Do not hog out the back of the bowl. You can see right here we're relatively thin. I really don't take much out of this part because I know that doesn't really help, except the high lift a little bit. I usually don't take much out of that. I usually just clean it. That's not where the gains are. The rest of it, yeah, this was probably raised a little bit. Notice how thick this is here. This is definitely thinner, so this has been raised a bit. The floor is not dropped, right? Notice our shape of our short side radius. That works really well the way it is. Okay, you can see the other one, the other half, I should say, what it looks like. Let's put it together and take a look at it. Okay, a little tough to do. Let's see if I can get some light in there. Okay, you can see it didn't... I didn't do a great job cutting it because I didn't realize these heads are way bigger than a standard Chevy head. How are they bigger? They have this tall raised rail that a standard small block Chevy doesn't have. So it's a lot tougher for me to cut it up with my porta-cable bandsaw. Let's see if we can get some better light on that. Okay, you can see a little bit different shape there. Okay, yeah, I did have to hit it with the burr because I left clay in it. Last flow we did, I took the complete ramp out and then I filled the roof with clay. I left the clay in there. I must have forgot about it. Some important things to think about if you're going to do a set of swirl ports. Do not cut the short side back like I did here. Okay, now our latest swirl port, which is on this casting, I didn't do this. In fact, I took very little off the short side because I know that's the weak point at this point. But even with a 2.1 inch valve, the bowl is pretty thick. I mean, yeah, it starts to get thin down here, but we have a massive valve in it. So these are not a problem to go 2055, 208. I ran mine with 2055s back in the 80s. Worked really well. Okay, the other side of this didn't survive cutting up as well because that's how thin it was. So when I went to break it apart, this whole part fell apart. So this is our pinch. Okay. Yeah, our pinch was paper. Okay. Paper thin. Now, you have to remember this pinch, the way this pinch is designed, right? It's got this huge notch in that pinch. Okay. So in order to get anything out of it, you gotta push your luck a little bit. In reality, I could have taken way more out of the center and left that thicker, which is probably a better way to go. As of right now, our center is over 100 thousandths thick. So if I could have taken a lot more metal out of that. You can see how the has this stupid hole in the roof for the rocker stud. That's a stupid mistake. I don't know why they did that. It doesn't really hurt airflow much, but it just gives you added cc's that don't really help. Okay, you can see I ate right through the short side, and I hit it several times after that. Now this is the side of the bowl that had the fin cast into it. Okay, now this one looks much thinner here than it does here. But in reality, they should be the same thickness. Okay, it's a perception that makes a difference. Yeah, that's kind of pushing your luck right there. Okay, that's less than 100 thousandths thick. Right next to the seat, it's going to be tougher to get rid of heat, right? You can see how deep the bowl is. Yeah, I did raise the roof quite a bit. Look how thin this is, right? Look how thick the floor is. Look how thin the roof is. So this was raised up, no question about it. But I wouldn't do this on any swirl port. I wouldn't take that vane out. I kind of did it just to see if it could be done. And it's still pretty thick. If you notice how they did it, that bowl actually bulges out. There's still metal on that side. So they added a lot of metal to that side to anchor that chunk of iron, I guess. Okay, relatively important is how thin our chamber is. Remember, when I was working on these, I was complaining how thin the chamber was stock. I could barely take anything out of the chamber. Actually, these I did take because the real big valve, I did take something out of the chamber. But the smaller valve version that I'm doing, I'm going to have to leave the chamber just about stock. If we're going to get something with some serious power out of these, this chamber is too thin to withstand any detonation, really. So that's going to need to be kept thick. Obviously, we're not going to use as big a valve as this, so we'll have a little more meat in our bowl. In any case, pretty cool exercise. It only took me a decent amount of time to cut this up, and it's only really 2 cuts. But not the easiest head to section, let me tell you. You know, if you guys would just buy me a nice big bandsaw, you make life a lot easier. Until then, I'll make do with this. Stevie's going to say, well, what the hell ever happened to our swirl port project? Oh, it kind of got put on the back burner because I'm busy with a couple other things at the moment. You know, something clicked into my head a minute ago. I mean, if we absolutely needed a port that was that big, we could take metal off the floor. Everyone says, oh, don't ever take metal off the floor. If you need the area, like by this pinch, right, you bring the roof up as much as you can take area out of the bottom. Okay, that's not the same as lowering our apex of our short turn. Okay, those are 2 different things. If you absolutely need area, we've got a lot of metal on this floor. We could lose some. Remember, we had real high speeds, I think, on this floor. You guys can correct me if I'm goofing that up. I thought we had real high speeds. So if we lower this floor a little bit, it's probably not going to hurt it. Okay? Just a little something rumbling around in my head. Let me take another quick look at this before I sign off on this video. Another place we could add area is this center wall. This wall right now is thick all the way down. Now, we can either put a tube in here or we can leave it open. Chad says leave it open, don't make that big a deal, especially on something that's going to be raced. He would know. Me, I don't know. I don't know which joint I'm going to go. I guess I could try to put tubes in. I've never done it before. How hard can it be, right? You have to remember, though, I don't have a seat and guide machine. I can't bore this open. So I would have to figure out a way to do that. In any case, it can't be the hardest project in the world. But yeah, we could add area to this. Now this bowl is still relatively thick here. So we could make the bowl bigger there. Remember, this is the side without the swirl vane in it. So, I mean, if you're going to put a tube here, Does it really pay to have a tube coming out and then adding area here? I don't know. Remember, it's a strange shaped port. Look at how square it is. The roof is really square. Okay, and then the reason it is that square is they want the air to come in, hit this, and then turn through the helix out through the periphery of the valve. Overall, it's a pretty cool design. I really like it. I mean, if you're not... as far as chamber turbulence, it's going to be tough to beat it, really. Now, is it actually too much? I think completely stock, this thing had almost 4,000 RPM of swirl. A modified one was much less, like 2,200 or something. You'd have to look at back at the older videos and see what's up with that, but you can actually see between those two bowls right there. Intake bowl's huge. Absolutely huge. Okay? All right, guys. Enough time looking at sectioned up junk. If you want a set of swirl ports, that's one of the many markings you guys want to look at. Okay? All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Have a good night.